everyone. Welcome to the Culture Blender, where we dive deep into the vibrant and diverse world of cultures from around the globe. My name is Rucha, and me and Lalita Marathe are your hosts for this podcast. Each episode, we bring you stories, experiences, and insights from people who have lived, worked, or studied abroad. Join us as we explore this beautiful blend of traditions, languages, and lifestyles that makes our world so wonderfully unique. Our guest speaker for today is Pranjali, who has lived in Tallinn, Estonia for more than a year. She hails from Maharashtra in the west of India. She wears many feathers in her cap and has worked in the academic field for 6 to 8 years. Hi Pranjali, welcome.
Hello, hi Richa. Nice to be here.
Yes, nice to have you here as well. So, can you tell us a little bit first about where you're from in Maharashtra?
Right, so I'm originally from Mumbai. I was born in north of India in Uttarakhand. However, I had been in Mumbai for a very long time, for good 20-25 years, you could say. So after that, I moved to Manipal. And I had been in Manipal Udupi side for about good 8-10 years. So as much as I have my roots in Mumbai, but I also have a deeper connection now with Manipal and Udupi and region around that. Um, and after that, recently last year, I moved to Tallinn, Estonia. In between, probably we will get around that a little later, but I have had experiences abroad in terms of study abroad and other assignments abroad. So yeah, it's been the last 10 years, I feel, have been very defining in the way they have turned out. So I even though I come from Mumbai, I got out of Mumbai about 10 years back. So after that, it's just been varied experiences, yeah, with a lot of
You've been
interactions.
very much all over the country, and if I'm not mistaken, around Europe as well, quite a bit.
Yes, I was in the Netherlands for about 2 semesters during my master's as an exchange student. And during that period, well, I learned a lot. I traveled a lot. I met some amazing people, got to know, how things work in academia per se, and that was the source of my interest, I would say, which pushed me to take up a PhD program later in Manipal. So that was my starting point, I would say, where things started to evolve. So about 10 months in Netherlands, and then I came back to Manipal. I enrolled for a PhD and then had been into academia since then with related to pursuing my research. And that's when this idea of international education came in. That's where I specialize in.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, and after Netherlands, I had the opportunity again 1 or 2 times to visit Europe on academic assignments to my which added to my set of experiences and my connection with Europe, so to say. So yeah, so Tallinn, when I moved to Tallinn last year, it it was definitely a big step for me in my life because this time I was moving to Tallinn and I was not just visiting Tallinn, so it was quite some leap. Uh,
True.
but
I mean,
yeah,
after all of these experiences, moving from North India to Mumbai and to South India again, and then traveling to Europe and back, and then, you kept going there for assignments. After all of this travel and all of these experiences, what was your initial impression about having shifted, completely moved to Estonia?
yeah, it's actually even I didn't know how I'm going to react to something of that nature, because this was the first time which, where I was going to be away from home for a long period where I didn't know for how long. Because I moved here with my husband who works in Tallinn as well. And so this time there was, given the fact that, I had been to Europe previously, and also, in fact, Tallinn once before, there was some unknown sense of familiarity that was there in my head. That okay, I've been there. I can do this. It's not something completely new and like out of my comfort zone. But having said that, it was uh, a very different feeling, I must say. I was slightly blank in terms of how this is going to evolve. What am I going to be doing here? How will I settle in? Will I? But I think what took up my time and my energy, I would say, at that point was that I was looking for a job. Uh,
Right.
so that
Yeah.
so that was something that consumed a lot of my energy and efforts, which was in fact rewarding because that kept me busy, that kept me going. Uh, and the job market in Estonia, in my field particularly, which is a little niche, isn't very easy to crack. It's challenging, especially for the fact that I don't know the language here. So it becomes a bit limited in terms of how many jobs am I eligible for. So when I
Yeah.
came here, my initial impressions were just there was a sense of familiarity, but also uh, a blank drawn where I don't know where I'm heading or how I'm going to be. But at
Yeah.
the same time, positive about it because I had moved with my family.
Yeah.
It was a new beginning. We always wanted to explore Europe in terms of professional and a personal life,
Yeah.
and this was an excellent opportunity to be. And when we were in, so when I started from Mumbai and when I moved to Manipal, it was a change in itself because it was slower, it was more smaller compared
Yeah.
to vibrant, very fast paced living in Mumbai. So when I came to Tallinn, actually it was not such a big transition because having stayed in Manipal and Udupi, we were kind of used to being in smaller towns. If you look at if you have been to Tallinn, it is not a very big city. It is big enough that it takes time to travel across the city, but it's not big. I mean, even in terms of population, if you see, it's not too high. So this transition from Manipal to Tallinn, as much as it seems puzzling that how could you have a connect there, but it was because it was not such a big city. Uh,
Yeah.
Getting around is accessible, easier here compared to probably, not that I've stayed in Berlin or Paris or bigger cities in the western part of Europe, but I can imagine them to be uh, very different
Quite,
from what
yeah, and quite
everyday life.
cosmopolitan in nature and just
Yes,
very
yes,
vast as well. Yeah.
correct.
So you
Yeah.
spoke a little bit about finding a job there and the workplace culture there. So how does that work differently from maybe what you've seen here in India in academia especially? And since you compared Manipal and Tallinn a little bit as well, could you tell us a little more about the city maybe and what your experiences there have been and how they sort of shaped your understanding of this comparison between Manipal and Tallinn, for example?
Right. So actually, I work remotely for a business school. So I am not in face-to-face interaction with professionals here in the field of academia, but I am aware of a few individuals who work in the domain of higher education, and I also, have observed my colleagues or others to be working in the city. So I can say that the work culture is very professional. When I say professional, it means that weekends are to yourself. No one will really even remember you over a weekend in all likelihood. Forget pinging you for something of that sort. Uh, it it feels weird to send emails after say 6 p.m. here because you feel like you're intruding into someone's uh, personal
Personal
time
life. Yeah.
after the work hours. And people keep to themselves, especially here in talent. Uh, what you are expected to do, they would follow a structure in that sense and ensure that that is done. But
Oh.
at the same time, that if you put something last minute or impromptu
Mm-hmm.
to be changed or to be delivered, there's going to be
Right.
panic. So,
Oh, okay.
which is something that was not there back home, I would say,
Yeah.
is in
Mhm.
India, even in Manipal, so to say, is that there would be last minute plans or changes that would be made to a certain event or
Right.
anything that's taking place, and we
Yeah.
would adapt. We would have to navigate through and deliver, and there was
Mm-hmm.
no and it came very naturally.
Mm.
Wherever, if it's a little changed from what it was planned as, I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
sounding a little vague
No,
in
no,
terms
no, no.
of
I think that makes complete sense. I mean, what you're really talking about here is, the respect for work-life balance. I think,
yes.
which is, I suppose, much higher in Estonia, is what you've noticed. Um,
Yes, very much so. And in fact, something very interesting that I note here is the fact that work life balance is not just, I would say, restricted to certain industries, but it's all across. Meaning
oh,
that
wow,
if,
that was
yeah,
surprising.
yes. So if you go to a restaurant in India, not all, but quite a few, I would say, they would serve food till, well, 11 even, or even further. I'm just giving a ballpark figure.
Yeah.
But here it is that if the restaurant shuts at 9, you're
Mm-hmm.
expected to place your order at 8:45, and if you happen to come there at 8:50, you'd be
Hmm.
told that last order is not going to be taken. So it's a very
Oh,
clear understanding, and in fact, uh, probably the first 2 or 3 times we might have found it different from what we were used to.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I should say that
Mm.
human beings as individuals are very adaptive in nature, meaning that if
Mm-hmm.
you're exposed to a certain phenomenon 3 to 4 times, the fifth time you're going to adapt. So
Right.
now we are used to this, that we even, I mean, we start planning our dinners at like 6:30 or 7, which was which is something probably very difficult for some people to understand back home, because we've never had dinner at 6:37. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not saying I
Dinner
would
at
have.
6:30 is inconceivable in India.
Yeah, so well, this was a change for sure. uh,
Mm.
but it works as well, right? So if you look at it structurally, things seem to flow. It's not a deterrent in the way things function. There's a sense of understanding, even in terms of the customers or people who are the takers here, that there
Yeah.
is a time. There's an official
Mm.
timing, and you're expected to respect that.
True.
It's not even a consideration that, okay, can you make this as an exception or an excuse this time,
Right.
and we will work it around next time. So
Mhm.
um, and I think it's how you take it. Human beings as individuals are quite adaptive, so we if it's an industry where it's customer centric, or basically the takers of it, uh,
Right.
they kind of adapt to the system. So it's actually about how you look at it. If you keep comparing it to practices back, it's challenging. But
Right.
when your mind starts to accept that this is how it is, and this is
Mm.
how, as a society, it functions, and when you
Yeah.
stop first is, I think, to accept it as
Mm-hmm.
a difference, to understand that yes, there is a difference. The fact that there's a
Absolutely.
difference is what adds to the diversity of experiences.
Yeah.
And second would be to go with it, not to challenge it. There
Yeah.
are well, I could sound as if it's always a very easy flowing field. Sometimes it is frustrating because you're not used to it, but
Mm.
majority of the times you kind of you know adapt to it, and yeah, just go with the flow. to function in the society.
Absolutely. I think you brought in a really good point, which was adaptability to a culture, to a society, which is obviously not always easy. And, it has its own challenges that come with it. So, apart from, restaurants closing early, I mean, I suppose that's what happens in Estonia. What other, sort of things in the culture did you notice that could be challenging for somebody who shifted there?
Um, One could be language.
Mm.
It is something that could be challenging, especially if you don't hail from this country, because well, when we go to supermarkets, we are usually with our translator in, Google Translate in our hand, so
Mm.
much so that now we recognize certain words because we have translated it so many times on Google Translate. So what does a potato mean, or what does an onion
Yeah.
mean? If you yeah, so initially it was tedious, but you you've learned the words, right? So this is exactly
Right.
what immersion is. So if you have learned certain nuances of the society or culture here, I think it's a step ahead in terms of immersion. Uh, so that's one thing, but I must say that language is something that's a very critical part of integration here. In fact, for your residence longer, there are certain clauses in terms of how much of proficiency do you need to have after a certain point in time after having stayed here. So language does feature in as one of the ways or means to assess your integration into the society here, and how well you have adapted. Second, I would say, again, I must highlight this, that it's not to say that it's challenging all the time. It's like I said in my previous point, that you can turn challenges into, I would say, uh, matters of acceptance. I don't know if it makes sense, but
Yeah, it makes
if you
complete
continue to
sense.
look at it as a challenge, it is just going to continue being a challenge. So,
True.
for example, the etiquettes here, or the mannerisms here are very different from what we were used to probably in Mumbai or Manipal, or well, I'm taking these places because we have connections there. But here people are very reserved. They they people It is very difficult to make someone talk here, converse with you, or or rather, let me say that it's very difficult to have a small talk here. It's
Okay.
okay. So it's 1 plus 1 is 2. It's not going to be that let's see how we can get the 2 by saying 2 into 1 is 2. No, it's 1 plus 1 is 2. Let's just stick to that, right? So people are very reserved.
Oh,
Yeah. So if you go to supermarkets,
is that good news for the introverts out there who don't really like making small talk?
yeah, again, it is actually. I mean, if you go to, I mean, I'm giving you examples of an everyday living here. If you go to supermarkets, some attendants smile at you, but some really do not have a very welcoming expression, because
Correct.
and honestly, these are the times, you if you see people on the or streets or supermarkets or somewhere else, and you get that vibe from them that you are not welcome here,
Uh,
or you are not from here, that makes you feel a little on a back foot. But having said that, we've also met some really nice people who tried to help, as in who understood the fact that you're not from here and you do need some assistance in just understanding how things work here. uh, but sometimes what happens, and this is, I find this very interesting, is that there are people who want to help you, uh, who who but they can't communicate with you because the language is a problem.
oh, right.
Okay, so
So the
they'll tell
language
you.
barrier seems to be quite a big problem there. It's in Estonia they speak Estonian, right? Are there any other languages that they speak?
They speak Estonian and Russian. A
Okay.
very big community speaks Russian as well. In fact, a lot of people can speak both the languages. So much so that some of them, out of them, are not able to communicate in English. So
Oh, I see.
yeah, so we would. I mean, I think I had an experience where I had called up a certain someone, and then the person said that I will call you back when I have someone who speaks in English. So
Oh,
this was so language is something that comes into everyday living as a factor, and it actually
mm,
seeps down even further in terms of the interactions that we have, because
mm,
I feel like the way to get the way to for them to for people to understand us, I'm saying
yeah,
us and them here, not to categorize them as us and them, but just for the fact that we cannot speak the language and they can, in
right,
terms of that
right.
is the us and them, is that it kind of seeps down into the everyday etiquettes as well. Probably if I knew basics of Estonian as a language, which by the way I have tried, but it's not an easy language to learn, but I
I can
think we
imagine.
yeah, but yeah, if you get around that, maybe it would work. On the other hand, like you said, it's very nice for an introvert who does not want to mingle and have small talks, because
Mm,
uh, you go out, you get inside a bus, you swipe your card, you sit, you get down, your ride is done. No talking, nothing that requires talking or interaction with anyone.
oh,
uh, Here it's the difference is one of the other differences that we saw was that, well, I come from Mumbai, so I
yeah,
know what it means to travel in local trains, and anyone who has stayed in
true.
Mumbai cannot be uh, cannot not be aware of it. So local trains, it's almost like, a fight for survival to get a seat in a local train, which,
Yeah,
given the fact that
absolutely.
how crowded and how long the distances are.
Mm,
But here, if you come to see in buses, people don't prefer having two seats occupied by two people. So meaning
oh,
that they would people would prefer here if only one is occupied and the second one is left empty, because not that they would tell you to go away, but it's just that
right.
they would feel a little intimidated, or rather
Yeah,
intrude
it's
to their
one of
space.
those unspoken preferences, I guess.
Yes, yes. So,
Yeah.
but having said that, if you ask me, I still go out and sit next to them, because for me,
Mm,
it's the comfort of my commute.
yeah.
Uh, and not like I'm posing any discomfort to them. But yes, I do wonder at times that my close presence in terms of proximity could be
Mm,
something that they may be wary about. So
right,
that's another thing. Third thing, which I think everyone's aware about, again, is the weather is not.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, weather is a bit demanding. If you can
Mhm.
crack the winters here, you can crack anything, I feel.
Wow.
And yeah,
Tell
it's
us a
these are
little more
like,
about the winters.
yeah, but yeah, winters are very harsh here. There's quite some snowfall. In fact, October end to say March end, maybe 5 to 6 months of the year, it's quite cold.
Oh, wow.
November is very gray, very gray, dark, not too much
Mhm.
sunlight. Uh, and then you come around spring. Well, Jan and Feb are just homebound mostly. Otherwise, just getting your basic groceries and things like that, or going to
Yeah.
work, which is mandatory in certain cases. And then
Mhm.
comes spring, which for an Indian, I would say, who is not used to cold, spring still feels like winter,
Oh, okay.
because uh, March and April are not exactly warm, because the
Uh-huh.
idea of warm from where I come from is 25 to 30 degrees, which
True.
is which is their which is not something that is an everyday happening here. But
Oh, okay.
uh, I would say that what this means is that you tend to appreciate the sun even more,
Mm, true. I
right?
guess.
So when you
I
are,
guess now you're starting out your winter period over there, right? Or is it already winter?
it's already winter. There hasn't been snow yet, but
Oh,
uh, it's it, but it's actually quite uh, cold already.
oh.
So that's another thing.
So what are the like? What is the lowest temperature you have seen up until now?
It's minus 15 or 17.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
cold.
Yeah, that's cold. But I would say that you adapt. Like I said in the beginning itself, that it might feel like I'm drawing out too many differences, but I think the entire idea of this podcast or interaction is the fact that how well you adapt, and if adaptability is something that we are looking at. Uh, the reason why I'm highlighting these differences is for a viewer or a potential,
Yeah,
uh, a goer to Estonia or this region is to be aware that there are these differences. It's just that you have to
absolutely.
accept them, embrace them,
Yeah.
and if you do that well, you're good to go. It's
And
a
I mean, it
it's
must be beautiful to see the snow for the first
uh,
time. Somebody
yes.
who comes from India.
Yes, the Christmas market is lovely. The the everything about December is very festive, very lit up, and in terms of, uh, I would say, just the countryside or just things to do in Estonia, there are quite a few things that you can do if if especially during the months of summer. There are
Yeah.
cities, there are towns in the region which you can go for. There are certain national parks or trails that you can go for. The countryside is especially something that people really look forward to going to during their summer holidays. So it's a
Mhm.
beautiful country. Only thing is that the reason why there is because of certain changes that you might figure out from your previous experiences,
Yeah.
uh, it might take some time to get used to it, but
Of
uh,
course.
it has
Yes.
its yeah but yeah, I think, I guess these are some of the differences. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, such differences are bound to occur when you go to another country which has a completely different culture, which has a different idea of how much distance you maintain between two people in a public transport, for example. Small
Hmm.
things like that matter a lot when you're living there day to day. Uh,
Hmm.
Yeah, but you spoke of festivities and Christmas, and I'm afraid I'm going to make you a little nostalgic here. But what are the things that you really, really miss from India? Are there any, festivals, any rituals, any customs that you miss?
Uh, Something that I would like to highlight is the fact that there is a certain population of the Indian community here, uh,
Hmm.
which where we've been in touch with Indians who, I mean, rather individuals who hail from India and have either been here for a shorter time or a longer time than we have, and this intermingling of or rather the opportunities or chances to mingle with fellow Indians is something that you appreciate even more, because there are certain similarities in the way we celebrate festivals and things like that. In fact, the embassy here took special efforts to celebrate Diwali and
Oh, wow.
Ganpati. So we did have events featuring around that, uh, which is something that I should be really commending. It's quite commendable that this is something
Yeah.
that they're doing. And they have here there is a festival called Jaanipäev, which happens in around 23rd or 24th of June, which is
Okay.
called it's like a midsummer festival, and usually it's more like a happy time here. People are singing, dancing, there's bonfire, and the bonfire actually reminds you of Holi in India, because yeah, so it's quite something where people, just take off from their everyday lifestyle and then go to a place to celebrate this festival. So it happens in June. So there are, and one more thing that I would like to highlight here is that when I'm talking about adaptability, is that um, there is something or the other happening in the city to keep it
Yeah.
going.
Mhm.
And if you are especially active on Facebook and
Mhm.
follow the events that take place in, well, in my case, Tallinn, there's a
Yeah.
lot that you can do. There are a lot of initiatives that people from different parts of the world have come together and started.
Oh,
There is
wow.
something
That's
called,
really interesting.
yeah, I'm sure that some people might be already aware of this. There's something called, I think, Gone Girl International. So they have,
Mhm.
there's this community of individuals who come from other parts of the world but have settled in, a part which is not familiar to them. And
Right.
that is something that they've started they have in Tallinn as well. There are quite a few cities that this group is active in, and there are
Okay.
like these representatives who organize activities. So it could be, like a karaoke, or it could be just a lunch
Mhm.
outing or something like that. So the idea is here is to get people together from different from diverse backgrounds and come together. So um, yeah, this is
That's
one thing
really
that
interesting. So
I
you,
yeah,
you really get to celebrate quite a few festivals there, I guess. And
yeah.
the fact that you have Ganpati and Diwali being celebrated in Estonia, I suppose that's a piece of home away from home for you too.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, not just Indian festivals, but and not just festivities actually, but even your everyday living and your experiences can be sort of elevated
Mhm.
through these events
Yeah.
that keep take place. Like even during winter, in January or February, it
Mhm.
could be, indoor activities. It could be like club meetups where they're playing board games, or just friendly language cafe meetups kind of a thing. If you are interested, and if you do happen to strike a chord with these individuals here, um, you do
Yeah.
have a social life as well. So it's not to say that it's completely isolated, no. But if you make an effort to sort of go out and explore, and Facebook is something that is very, very like active here, uh,
Yeah, which
and
is surprising for people who are younger people, I suppose, in India.
yeah, I mean, in India, we were more used to WhatsApp. Here, it's more
Mm.
Facebook. And even the events section, at least uh, for my experiences in India, I was not so active through Facebook events. But
Mm.
here, it's something that, especially in summers as well, there are a lot of food truck festivals, there are concerts that are happening, there are, like I said, the midsummer festivities. So something or the other is always there. Throughout the year, you'll not have like a lull period when there are no events. So what I'm trying to get at is that there are opportunities, chances to get out of home, sometimes, which could be very comforting on very cold days. But
True.
because these things exist, there are ways to cope with it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, since you have been there for a while now, and you might have been going to many of these events as well, have you had a chance to try any local Estonian cuisine yet?
Uh, to be honest, I am a vegetarian, so
Okay.
my that's not to say that there is no choice, but I would say there's a wider choice for non-vegetarians,
Mhm.
and quite some choice actually in the meat that they offer.
Okay.
Quite some variety in the cuisine. So I will not be able to really highlight exactly what varieties exist there, but I can tell you that. Uh, even simple things like, a supermarket has tons of bakery items.
Oh,
You will never go hungry here. Supermarkets are open till like 10 and 11 in the night.
wow.
All. Yeah, so I might not be able to highlight a particular variety or a delicacy here, and
Yeah.
apologies for that.
No,
But
no worries, no
I
worries.
must say that there's quite some variety in general about food. Not an issue at all.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, but can you maybe tell us your favorite bakery item then?
There are there are quite a few. There are these cinnamon rolls or apple strudel, or yeah, the sweet and savory both is quite a lot prevalent here. There's something called moon rolls as well,
Oh,
which
okay.
is and uh, and these are delicacies that you probably are not, not in touch with every day, living in
Mhm.
India back home. So here you're like
Yeah.
really fascinated. At least for me, it's quite some fascination. So before like a short trip, you just pick up a couple of rolls on your way,
Yeah.
uh, and enjoy your ride. So there's something called kringle as well.
Oh,
That's there. And by the way, these all of these things that I'm telling you about, you don't need to make like a special trip to a bakery. All these things are available in a supermarket.
yeah.
So that makes it really accessible.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I think there are options.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so coming back to, I think you also mentioned in between that there are a few national parks in the country, and the country itself is quite beautiful. So, have you traveled around a lot yet? Are there any places that you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Uh, well, I have wanted to go to a couple of places. One is not a national park, but it's an island. It's called Sarema. It's quite a
Mhm.
famous one here. So
Okay.
Sarema is about a few hours away from Tallinn. That is
Mhm.
something usually people tend to visit during the summer. Probably
Mhm.
not in winter or chilly months of the year.
Yeah.
Second is there is a national park, which is something that I want to visit, is Lahema, which is again a few hours away from Tallinn, but
Mhm.
it's quite famous, especially for its just the beauty of it.
Mhm.
In this summer, I visited this place called Rumu Quarry, which was quite nice. There was boating that you could do, and you could just like have a small trek above and have this entire view of the scenery around there. And there are smaller towns compared to Tallinn as well, which are called Tartu, which is about 2 hours away. There is something called Parnu or
Mhm.
Hapsalu. So these are cities that you can do, and you can just go for a day and come back in the evening, go in the morning and come back in the evening. So that's that. And where else did I go to in? Yeah, there are these waterfalls as well, which are probably not very. I don't know how to put it, like very perennial or doesn't have a very heavy water flow, but it's very pretty
Mhm.
because it's all nestled in like a very
Oh,
green greens rather.
wow.
Right? So and in the winter, actually, there is ice skating because the lakes are
Oh, wow.
frozen. So that's something that people do. People go for
That's quite
sauna.
a different experience.
Yes, people go for sauna in the during the winter months.
Mhm.
And there are light festivals as well with fire dance performances that happen.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, so like I said, there is something or the other that keeps happening.
yeah.
And something that probably I'm very intrigued by, though I am
Mhm.
very scared to try, is the ice water dipping in the cold. frozen months. That's something that
Is that
people are
really
really.
something people do over there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And quite a few people do this. The sauna culture, like I said, is very prominent here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
People really like to go out for a sauna and just like keep themselves warm.
Yeah.
And there are natural trails, there are camping grounds. People,
Yeah.
just take out their uh, camping stuff or other the means and get out, drive off to a particular destination and
Yeah.
uh, make have a barbecue there or just be and enjoy the beaches. Of course, these are things that they're more prominent in the summer.
Hmm.
There's fishing as well that happens.
Oh,
In fact, a friend of mine was asking the other day if I would like to come with her because they were going to go fishing someday. So fishing is
okay.
also something. And one more thing that is maybe you can. It's not really related to the question that you asked, but you
Go
you
ahead.
is something that I it really struck me is that people here are very self-sufficient, meaning
Okay.
that if you want to fix something, if it's a car or like the basics of a uh, or just this idea of DIY which exists uh,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very
Any kind of
very.
repair, anything around the house.
Yes, it's very, very rampant here. And it's actually
Mm-hmm.
very appreciable, I would say, that people do
Okay.
this. It makes you realize that you can do so much by yourself that you don't need to be dependent on others.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you tend to learn because only when you will make those mistakes will you learn as to how to do it. So it's now of course there's access to information, so you YouTube it, you sort of figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to do it and then you actually do it. In
Yeah.
India, probably we are very used to just calling someone for help and they would give you the assistance. Here it's actually really interesting how starting from a younger kid to an adult, people are
Mm-hmm.
very, very much into doing their stuff on their own.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, I think that's really important as a life skill to learn to, I mean, to be self-sufficient, and
correct.
I mean, a lot of freedom must come with it as well, right? Just the fact that you can get something done by yourself.
Yes, it gives you a sense of freedom in the sense of that you know how things work. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a big plus. And like you said, it's almost like a life skill that you
Hmm.
can do something by yourself. So yes, it's very much here, and in fact, it makes you learn and appreciate this because this is not something that is natural to me, at least because I used to be dependent on services back home. But here, it's like you learn. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So is there any other experience that you would like to share with us? Something that surprised you, or something that you found to be really beautiful in the culture there?
Oh, there was, I mean, a few months back, I was blessed to have seen the Northern Lights, which happened to be from just outside my residence. And it's
Wow.
something that is quite an experience to, have in your life because
Mhm.
it's magical to see the sky light up in so many different shades. So, and when I say I'm blessed, is for the reason that people travel kilometers wide distances to just get that experience. And thankfully, we didn't have to go much anywhere much more than a few kilometers just to see that. So, or in fact, there
Wow.
were some glimpses, quite a few glimpses from where I stay as well. So
Wow.
that's one thing that it will definitely be etched in my memory. I would say is the Northern Lights.
I can
Summers
imagine that
were
must be amazing.
yes, and summers were beautiful. It's a very different feeling in the summers actually, because you can do so much. There's more mobility. There is more scope to explore places, even smaller places. Like which are not probably slightly hidden and not don't appear so much on Google. They're really worth seeing if you just take like a day out trip. So yeah, I think there's quite some things to do. It's just about how well you adapt.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I mean, thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences and thoughts with us today.
Yeah,
It was really inspiring, especially all the points you made about adaptability. I think there's a lot to learn from that. Uh,
yeah.
and it was a pleasure to have you as the guest speaker today on the Culture Blender. For listeners, please subscribe for more content like this. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more stories from across the globe. Until next time, keep blending cultures and celebrating diversity. Thanks, Pranjali.
Thank you.